Okay. So today we're going to be talking about two other sampling methods. One sampling method is sign netting, and the other is electrofishing. I have done both of these, which were quite fun. I really liked electrofishing, which, you know, is illegal, but I got to do it with people who were qualified to do it, so it wasn't illegal when I did. So, sign netting, the fish are close to the shore typically, and the majority of the species, it's really effective in capturing the majority of the species in a particular area. So, it depends on the size of the body of water, and you can sample the area if it's, like if you're trying to do a lake, then you can get it like close to the shore of a lake. If you're doing a stream, if the stream's not too big, you could maybe sample like the whole stream in that particular area. But if you're doing a lake, you could only do like a small section of a lake. The nets have to float on the top and have weights on the bottom, and the nets typically are going to have poles on each end that the person can hold. Now sometimes they do sign netting on boats, where a boat is out in the middle of the ocean or out in the middle of a lake and the boats are dragging the net and capturing fish that way. So it's a little bit different if the water is much deeper. I've only done the sign netting where you have the like the handheld ones. I've never done the sign netting on a boat out in the middle of like a deep lake or a deep river or something. So here's an example of two people who are doing sign netting. You have to put the poles at an angle, and then the net has floaters on top, so it's not going to sink down. And then at the bottom, it has weights, and then one person on each side. People obviously have waders on. There's a couple tricks to it that you have to consider when doing it, and this shows the floaters on the top and then the weights on the bottom, because you want to try and get all the fish in the area, so you're not going to go in a place that's any deeper than this, because you don't want the fish to swim over the top of it or to swim underneath of it. So this is how it's done in a boat, and a boat can do it by itself. The boat drops the net in, and again the floaters are going to keep it on top, and the weights are going to drop the second part of the net down, and you can see here how the net's kind of gathering it, and then it's going to pull it in and kind of scoop it underneath so that it kind of like drawstrings it in so that the fish are trapped, and then it'll pull it in and gather all the fish that are kind of in that area. So boats can do that to kind of haul the fish in. But these are kind of all the tricks to sign netting. If you're trying to sample a particular area, you're going to kind of want to walk around the area you want to sample. If I'm sampling here and I walk straight through here, there's not going to be any fish here for me to sample. So if I want to sample this area, I'm going to want to walk around that area and come up behind it. Because if I walk straight through here, the fish are all going to move away, and that defeats the purpose of sampling that. So you're going to want to walk around the area you want to sample. And then you're going to spread the net out, and you and the other person who are walking are going to hold the net out. Now it's helpful to have a third person. You don't always need a third person, but it's helpful to have a third person that's going to come up towards you and kick and scare the fish to come toward the net and have them swim toward the net. And so as you and the other person that are holding the pole start to move forward, and you want to drag the poles at an angle along the bottom to keep the weights at the bottom and keep them angled that way, so that fish don't swim under the net. The third person is coming at you, kicking and scaring up the water so that the fish start swimming toward the net. You and the other person go toward that, and you walk quickly and you go straight toward the shore. And as you carry the nets up toward the shore, you're gonna kind of do like a scooping method. Just scoop it up and lift the poles toward the shore, and then you should be able to see any fish that are caught in the net. You want to get the fish out of the net very quickly to try and scoop them out and put them in a bucket. That way you can survey the fish, because obviously you don't want to leave them in the net. Anything left in the net is, for a long amount of time, is going to die. So you want to get them out of the net as quick as possible.
Jacob Oglesby, please return to class.
So getting them out of the net as quickly as possible is going to keep them safe. So here's some people who are demonstrating how to do this. They have a really long net that's on a beach, and so you may not think that there's anything in this beach water, but they're gonna do a quick sign netting of this beach water, and you'll see what they're able to come up with. So they have a really long net, and they are dragging the net up on the beach. See, they've got it coming down at an angle, keeping it down the whole way, because if you pull it up, then the fish will escape. So they're keeping it, dragging it down.
Staring back this way, Joe. Is he stuck in the loop? Ready? Rip.
And they've lifted it up now. They're keeping it weighted at the bottom. Pulling up. You may not think there's anything in there, but it's kind of amazing what they actually end up catching. So they've caught some really cool fish. Just doing that one sweep.
Video?
Just that one little area of the beach.
Yeah, fish chowder. Huh? It's gonna be fish chowder. Let's see what's on the ground.
So the other person would have to walk around in order to get behind them, and it doesn't even look like the water is that deep, but by just pulling it in like that, they were able to get the fish. Trying to scroll to the next slide. Electrofishing, however, is illegal. You cannot do electrofishing unless you are supervised. Electrofishing can only be done for management or research purposes. And it sends an electrical current into the water that temporarily stuns the fish. Then the fish is scooped up with a net and put into a bucket or cooler or something like that to be counted and cataloged. This can be done on a smaller scale. Sometimes people have backpacks with fishing units, and they walk around in like a smaller stream. I've only ever done it on a boat, where the boat has, and we'll watch a video about it, where the boat is equipped with electrofishing gear, and then in that case, one person drives the boat and the other person is doing the collecting with the electrofishing. In the case of a boat, each person has a pedal. The person driving the boat has a pedal, and the person collecting the fish has a pedal. That way, if like the person falls off the boat, then the pedal is released and the person that falls in the water doesn't get electrocuted. So it's a safety procedure to make sure that nobody is electrocuted that's not supposed to be. They both have to be pressing the pedal in order for the electrical shock to go into the water. It's really, I know this sounds bad, but it's really kind of fun, because when the fish are being shocked, they pop up to the surface and you have to scoop them up really, really quick. And it's like the fish are just popping up everywhere. And I was I wasn't steering the boat, obviously, I was one of the ones collecting them with the net, so we just all stood around and there's like a railing that you can lean against, so you lean out with this long net and you try and scoop up the fish as they pop up to the surface. So this is good for small and medium sized depths of water. We were in kind of a creek that had, it wasn't super deep, but it was obviously deep enough for a motorized boat, and it was being sampled, and really we were just learning the technique. But you need to be quick because the fish do recover pretty quick and then they'll swim away because the electrical shock isn't super bad. It's just enough to stun them so they float to the surface, but after, you know, about 5-10 seconds they recover, so you have to be really, really fast, which is why it's good to have multiple people. And you need to be careful not to do it too often or have too high of a frequency, because then the fish will be, you know, shocked to death. This is usually better for larger, sturdier fish. Obviously minnows and things aren't gonna do as well with this. So this is what the electrofishing boat looks like. These things that hang in are where the electrical current's gonna be. Again, there's a railing that you can hang off of, so put your waist against to lean over. You have these longer nets so you can reach out. Here's the person that drives the boat. One of these people will have the pedal. This guy back here will have a pedal too. So he's driving and steering the boat, and one of these will have a pedal, and both of them have to be pressing the pedal in order for the electrical current to work. And so like if one of these guys falls off, then the pedal won't be pressed and there won't be any current in the water, so nobody's gonna get shocked. Here is the backpacking version. All of these guys are okay because they have rubber waders. So they have the electrical poles shocking the smaller system. So it's obviously not as deep, but you can still shock the things that are in this area. So he's wearing the backpack and they're all shocking, and they're waiting with nets here. He's preventing any fish from going this way. But by wearing rubber waders, they're protected so that they're not gonna get electrocuted. But this shows the process. This is kind of chaotic because this water is pretty rough. So they're kind of all over the place, and there's a lot of fish. You can see a lot of fish popping up here. So just one guy doing this, and he's like tossing them all in this container. This is like a pretty chaotic one. So really they should have more people working this than just two, with the amount of fish that they're trying to catch. But it's still pretty interesting video.
Fisheries biologists with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission use a technique known as electrofishing or shocking to sample fish populations in public waters in North Carolina from the mountains to the coast. To electrofish, biologists use an electrofishing boat equipped with a generator and a special control box to send electrical current into the water. This current attracts and temporarily stuns the fish so that biologists can capture them easily with nets. To operate an electrofishing boat, two people are needed. One person drives the boat, while the other, the dip netter, stands on the bow of the boat with a long-handled net to pick up fish as they are drawn to the electricity. Once in the net, the fish are brought onto the boat and placed in a recovery tank where they stay for a few moments. As the fish recover, biologists take them out of the tank to weigh and measure them. Occasionally, a few scales are taken from the fish to learn more about the fish's age and growth. Sometimes reward tags are placed on the fish. The fish are then released, unharmed, back into the water. Sampling fish with an electrofishing boat is efficient, quick, and relatively safe if conducted properly by trained personnel. All Division of Inland Fisheries biologists have been thoroughly trained in electrofishing procedures and safety considerations. No one should electrofish without proper certified training. Safety measures have been built into the boat to prevent the boat's occupants from being electrocuted accidentally. First and foremost, everyone on the boat is required to wear rubber gloves and rubber boots. They also wear life jackets at all times. The driver and the dip netter have separate foot pedals. Both pedals must be pushed down at the same time to send electrical current into the water. If for some reason the dip netter on the bow of the boat loses his footing and is thrown overboard, the front pedal is released and the electrical circuit is broken before he makes contact with the water. By electrofishing, biologists can find out what's happening underwater without hurting the fish. Electrofishing is an important management tool that biologists use to determine many things about a fish community, such as the number of fish, the types of fish, the age of the fish, and whether the fish are healthy or diseased. Biologists take the information they've gathered from electrofishing to develop management plans that improve fish populations and ultimately fishing opportunities for North Carolina anglers.
So the place I went electrofishing was probably similar to this. Like, it wasn't a super big river, wasn't super deep, but it was not like the Mississippi or Missouri, but it was kind of like that sized. So with regular fishing, there are various ways to fish, and including like poles, hooks, bait, locations, casting, using boats, fishing from shore. If you have a pond, some people will stock them just for kind of like leisurely fishing. If they have a lake, they could stock their lake. Ice fishing in some places. Their regular fishing there's so much variation to it. I mean, there's like fly fishing. Some people will use live bait. Some people will use just like make their own lures. It's a sport for a reason. There are certain poles, certain variety of hooks. There's knots and bobbers and weights, and I mean, if you want to catch this fish, you need to use this. If you want to catch this fish, you want to use this. If you want to catch this, you need to go at this time of day or this kind of year. It's pretty crazy. For recreational purposes, most people need a license, unless you're on your own property. And having a license is necessary for like public property, if you're gonna go to a public area to fish. One of the easiest and most fun ways to sample fish is just fishing. And it's a great stress reliever. People will just go out there and sit and wait for a bite, and it's a great way to socialize. Lots of people enjoy fishing. So that is one of the best ways to just sample an area. Go out there, fish, see what's there. Snorkeling or diving is another way. When I worked with the Missouri Department of Conservation, we actually snorkeled. And so we were looking for a really tiny fish called the Naringo darter. Naringo darter is an endangered fish in Missouri, and they live in very fast moving streams. The streams though are like this deep. And so we would go and to the Ozarks, and it was based out of Columbia, but so we would drive to the Ozarks, and they had these different areas that they knew the darters used to be in, and we would like gauge the water quality and do some water quality measurements, and then we would basically snorkel, and we would, if we spotted a darter, then we would say like what size the darter was, what other fish were in that area, and we would put a GPS location for where that darter was spotted. And so that's kind of what we did. I did that for a summer with the MDC as an internship. It was a lot of fun, but it was kind of challenging because they really liked fast moving water, and if the water is moving fast and you have to go up against the current, because when you go up against the current, you disturb the water and it makes it really difficult to see. So as you're going in the water, all the debris and stuff goes past you. So if the water's going this way, you have to go upstream. So the dirtiness goes behind you. So basically, sometimes the water is like this deep and you're like crawling upstream, and I got a good arm workout that summer. And a good tan too. But snorkeling is a way to sample, and it's a visual way, and diving is a more intense way if you're going into deeper water. We never really went diving because the water we were in was not very deep. It was all very shallow. Deeper diving is for like ocean sampling and coral reefs and that kind of thing. It can be used for a variety of reasons, but the problem with this is it does require good visibility. We had really good visibility sometimes we had really poor visibility. But that's why we always snorkeled upstream, because the Nangua darter really liked clear water, and so we never really had to sample with dirty water. So this is kind of what I did. The water I was in was never really that deep and never really that dirty, and so we often wore wetsuits because the water was cold, and we would basically crawl up the water in about this deep, sometimes even more shallow, and look for the Nangua darter and any other fish we could see.
Fishing nets rather than tubing the stream.
We're in Holly Creek in northeast Georgia. Holly Creek is a tributary to the Conasauga River, and a really cool little fish, the bridle darter, lives here, and we're studying it.
I couldn't find a video on
The bridle darter is only found in 2 river systems in the world, the Conasauga River and a little bit of Tennessee and northern Georgia, and the Etowah River, which is just north of Atlanta. We're concerned that habitat degradation, a lot of siltation, and other factors has really caused this fish to disappear from several areas. So we're doing a survey to see where they still are found and where they aren't.
That's what they look like.
And we're also taking a little snip of their fin and doing population genetics to determine the genetic health of each of these populations. Fish and Wildlife Service did assess the bridle darter for listing several years ago, and they determined at this time it really didn't need listing. But just earlier this year, the population in the Etowah River was described as a new species, the Etowah bridle darter. So now instead of having one species in 2 separate drainages, you have a single species in the Conasauga and another single one in the Etowah. So now that they have a more highly restricted distribution, they're going to be reconsidered in the future for potentially listing one or both of these species. Bridle darters, they're very sneaky. They dart around really quickly. So what we do, and this is really fun, is you get 3 or 4 snorkelers in the river, they spot one, you set a net downstream, and they literally herd the fish into the net. So it's more hunting and herding than it is fishing. It's really fun. You never know with this method of catching fish if you're going to get 3 in a day or 13. And we were really going to be pretty happy with 5 and very excited if we got 10 today. But it's just past noon and we've already got 7 individuals, so we're really doing well. This is a perfect fall day. It's bright sunshine, a nice breeze. It's just, I have the best job in the world. Folks are able to snorkel around, and if more people got out into the river, I think they would just really get a better understanding of all the cool critters that are just all around us here in the southeastern United States. And hopefully that will inspire more people to get excited about protecting these critters and trying to fight for cleaner water, which is good for humans and good for bridle darters.
Alright, so we did make it through the notes today. Okay, so, still working on our final, still working on our field guide, still working on our random sampling lab. But that is different ways that fish fish can be collected. Side netting, electrofishing, regular fishing, snorkeling, and diving. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, I should probably stop the recording.